The number of confirmed deaths has passed 200. The governor has called a state of emergency.
Hundreds and hundreds of bodies.
Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my The Last of Us Survivor Difficulty video walkthrough. We're still in the quarantine zone. This is the third section of the Slums. This is the second time doing this commentary, which saddens me so much. The first one went so well, so smooth, and apparently Adobe decided to, be a clicker and tear my fucking jugular out. So, it's lost, gone to the ether. You'll never know what I said in that, and I'll probably try and paraphrase as much as I can in this. So the first thing I think I mentioned was the naming convention of these videos is a little weird, because the game has the chapter name, which is the quarantine zone. Then it has a subchapter name for that chapter, and these titles get quite long. And what can happen with long titles is that YouTube can struggle with them sometimes, and you have to abbreviate them. And it can mean that people don't see the content so easily, or can't find the content, which is even worse. And the YouTube search bar is already shitty, because all it does is populate its searches with the most popular channels, and all you get are the generally the most viewed footage of the game rather than the quality of the game, because 99% of the times whoever has the most views for any said video game on YouTube is usually somebody being a complete idiot while they play, or just doing something weird. Which can kind of suck when you're looking for something to help you rather than something to entertain you. And this entertained me. Did you see what happened there? If you missed it, take the video back a little bit. A guy falls off a roof, and I don't know why. He's just some random black dude falls into that market area while we're having a gunfight, and yeah, very strange. But those two guys there in that encounter, you can punch them if you want to. You can perhaps sneak up on them and try and lure them into a close quarters to kill them. I know I'm not going to be using my pistol for the next section all that much, so I feel free to use it. And you'll notice I do miss one shot. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done. And you're going to be using this little handgun for a lot of the game if you can get ammo for it. And it's cool. It's a good gun. It's a little bit inaccurate at times, even when you have full skills put into, reducing sway and things. You can put the reticle on their face and you can still miss, which can be frustrating. But it is what it is. You will get used to it. You will, grit and bear it. And this sequence here is once again introducing you to the concept of these larger environments where you can either stealth your way through, you can kill people, you can go loud. There's a lot of choice that you can do on this game. And I'm going to be choking these guys because it's the best way, I believe. Save some ammo, get some done. I'm also going to wait outside a window for longer than I should, because when there's two of you, when it's you and Tess, she will help you do takedowns, especially on this section here, and I'm actually going to wait for the people to separate, and they never do, because the game wants you and Tess to go in and take them out in synchronicity. And I didn't realise this at the time, so you're going to see me sit outside this window, like a perverted Home Alone burglar for far too long. But you get to listen to some conversations and you get to go forward and so on and so forth. But the titles, when you abbreviate them, as I was saying, can lose your content in search engines, can lose your content when people are trying to look for related videos. And a good example of this was the final mission of Gears Judgment, which is a pretty tough mission. I thought that mission was going to get a lot of attention because it was hard. It barely got any because of the way I had to abbreviate the title, because its title was Plaza for the Tyron Dead, on front of Gears of War Judgment, Insane Difficulty, blah blah blah, Upsy Daisy, Act 1, Chapter 5, pushing daisies, like a million subtitles upon subtitles that I had to abbreviate to get it found, and no one found it. So it can be a little frustrating for the people making the videos. But you can't blame the bigger guys that are getting all the views. That's just the way YouTube works. When they show up in the search engine, people are going to watch. And if you're not showing up, it's not that you're doing bad things, it's just that you're not being found. So it's just something to bear in mind. But there's a crafting mechanic in this game that I haven't really talked about, so I'm going to do that now. And the crafting mechanic, I personally think, is a little bit lacking. I anticipated it to be a lot deeper than it is. Don't get me wrong though, it isn't overwhelming the players. They've kept it in a very gamey realm where it isn't too much, but at the same time it's enough to give you some depth. And I anticipated it to be insanely detailed. Like, I thought you were going to be opening cistern tanks in toilets and salvaging parts and, you know, crafting all kinds of different things. I didn't think it would be limited to scissors, there are blades, you know, to bottles of alcohol, to bags of explosives, to sugar, and things like that. But it is, and the way I would recommend playing as far as that stuff is concerned is I would recommend never ever crafting med packs, because crafting on the harder difficulties, you get significantly less loot. You really do. Like, I didn't realise how little salvage I was going to find until I played Survivor. You know, I didn't know, because I'd only played it on hard, and hard is a much different experience. So I went from always having a full backpack to rarely having one of each, and you need to make the ones you get count if you can. So I recommend putting points always into Molotovs as opposed to med packs, because with a med pack, I'm not going to be using them in this playthrough. It's not for any conceited reasons. It's literally, I can play better, you know? If I take a few deaths to get to an area, it doesn't bother me because I'm learning and I can always do it better. That way I'm not wasting resources making med packs, and I'm not wasting upgrade points on healing and size of my life. You know, if a clicker grabs me, it's going to instant kill me on every difficulty. I need to learn not to get grabbed by the clicker, and that way I'll improve as a player, and I believe you will too if you follow those kind of tips. This sequence here kind of bugged out a little bit. These two people aren't talking. I didn't know at the time because I was listening to a podcast. This was all in silence. I was listening to the E3 podcast from Giant Bomb, so I was only relying on my eyes here, and I was hoping these people were going to diverge, but they never do. So instead, I throw this bottle, there we go, and then I go and proceed to headshot them. But the second guy doesn't respond. Headshot, he doesn't move, he's still going to that second headshot. So that tells me something immediately with the AI and the pathing. When you make a noise, their responses or their reaction can't intercept until they've completed that input. Like, he had to get to the noise or the origin of the noise to investigate it before he could respond to the sound of the gun. And I don't know if this is a one-off, I don't know if this is something that can be exploited, but you just saw then, you know, a perfect piece of evidence that the AI can be gamed in certain responses, and right then was something that might help you out later on. I don't think I'd do it again in such a way, but it's something to think about, and it's something interesting. But going back to the dying part, I don't know what's wrong with today's society, but people have this embarrassment when it comes to, I say society, gaming society I should really say, because this does transfer into real life, but I'm talking more about gaming. People get embarrassed about deaths, and I don't know why. They don't see it as a learning process, they don't see it as something that is necessary to get better and improve. And I do blame this on the fact that nowadays, in life and in everything we do, you get a trophy for taking part, man. You get a trophy for fucking watching, you know? Like, look at Microsoft trying to sell us achievements for watching Desperate Housewives while we sit on our ass picking us balls. It's completely unnecessary, and it's something that, you know, it's in the Great Darwinian race, we lose because we're all too fucking lazy to run. It's obnoxious, it really is. And I think losing is important. It humbles you. And when you play these games on the hardest difficulty, that's the reason I start on the hardest I can when I get a game. My dream in a game, well, I say dream, that's kind of hyperbolic. When I'm at my happiest, when I'm playing a new game, is if I can start on the hardest difficulty and I can experience the most brutal playthrough with no knowledge of the game, because I will get my ass beat. You know, I do not have the skills at that point of the game to overcome the scenarios, so it forces me to learn, and it forces me to learn so much faster than you will ever learn on normal, because you're given so much of a charity when it comes to getting through each part. But when you start on these difficulties, they are brutal. You know, it's a perfect word for this game, because this game is brutal, but even more so, you know, every single facet of the game is heightened and it's peaked against you. And when you start on hard or on survivor or on whatever difficulty you want to say for whatever game you're using as example, you become a better player quicker. This right here doesn't work, guys. I throw the bottle and distract the two guys, but I'm crawling too fast. My crouch walk is too quick. He hears me because this is on Survivor. So I do a couple of punches, but it's not a problem because we can open this door and we can get inside here. And as soon as the door shuts, everything is forgiven, and that's the end of the mission. So thanks for watching, and you take care now.